between the politicians and the screenwriters.
Our very big early hit was political.
Seems quite enamoured by how good looking some of this.
And quite established, quite politics with a P.
But what people had really revelled in was seeing politicians squirm.
Absolutely terrible.
And it has to take you into places that are normally closed to the average punter.
It was all true. It was every single episode of what happened, carrying people in when they were dying on their feet and having it off locked up in the rooms and that. I didn't tell half the stories today, but they could have done. But it all happened. But we changed the names. Didn't even change the times and the places because everybody knew it was, a history around the place. Some of the villains were proud. They said, "Why do you put my real name in that? I wouldn't have minded, So, but that is what people want. They want something they're familiar with, and everybody watches tell you, "Oh, I wish I knew what all this was about." But they talk in such long words and that, It's better now with all the extra channels, but in those days when they only had 2 or 3, the people who wanted to know politics in a simple way, and they'd watch Austin Mitchell or me or about half a dozen who could put it in simple terms, but the others were just talking over their heads.
Do you think, again, I mean, the idea of the relationship between political fiction and the political sphere, do the political attitudes influence the fiction, do you think? Or have we got to a stage now where fiction's beginning to influence political thinking? Well,
usually to make a good story, you've got to put a bit of spin on it, like they say in newspapers. But with politics, you don't. I mean, who could invent Bill Clinton having it off in the corridor, the President of the United States? Never in a million years could you make that up and make it stick. But it did happen. And there's other stories which are, and it happens in every industry. If you were doing horse racing and jockeys, or you were doing the film industry, or you were doing something else, in the city, and they didn't know what was going off. They're not fools. But if you had to put it in writing or put it on a microphone, no. And you need somebody to translate it, to make it sound gullible and and that, but it works. If you get the mixture right, it works. You pass the knowledge on. It's accessible to everybody, but it's in a language of its own.
Yeah.
And it's written by civil servants. And you remember the programmes Yes Minister? I never ever laughed once at any of those programmes. But when they first came out, because I was then Ben's minder for Tony Benn, and it did happen. They are like that. With the newspapers, they're only interested in politics between Monday morning and Thursday evening. But what happens on a Saturday when some drunk smashes your car, and then the MPs are demanding and want to know what's going to happen, and they're in it to the thick of it. I've had my car trashed twice. I've been beaten up twice. I've been birdled 7 times, and it's a rough old trade. It's a very, very rough old trade. And I used to, when I was writing, would tell people this and say, "How would you like it if it happened to you?" "Oh, yeah, I can see that." But nobody ever explains it or tries to put on a programme about what a backbencher's life actually is.
So when you write, does that hammer that message home, or at least conveys it in a way that people can relate to?
Yeah, you can convey it in a simple way. And if you've lived through it, you have some very good stories. People will come up and hand a new baby on you, put in your arms and say, "I'm off, I've done it, I can't pay for him, they won't pay me the allowance, you see to it." That happens. You don't run into the newspapers because, you don't want to show people up and that, but that happens all the time. And it's gone on all my life. I've lived among it, so you do get angry when you're wanting to write about it and that. And it's a wonderful, exhilarating life when you're at the top, but it's a lot of pitfalls as well. And that does not come across because too many MPs can't write. They've all got degrees at Oxford, but they cannot write simply for the Daily Star or these sort of papers. But it's word of mouth. And then it turns to, heard it on the telly, he's a good bloke, I'm voting for him. Simple as that, you know. And the same with their wives. I never ever had a problem of getting elected. And my majority varied from 700 to 17,000. You know, with the boundary changes and all this sort of stuff, because I could communicate, and I wrote for all the papers, every paper, plays, books, anything, always do it with a joke. A cartoon is the best way of putting a point across, and if you can do it with a cartoon, you'll make a lot of money, and everybody will read it. They all read the cartoon, and other people write books and have a different aspect, but that was my way of doing it.